Well, this is a week that a lot of people are paying attention to. If health insurance and healthcare costs matter to you, President Trump has volleyed out there a potential plan. The reports on all the details aren't entirely clear yet, but here to comb through it is he's become a friend of the show and a resource. He also happens to be a pollster, and as I was researching some of the work that he's done over the last year, he gets it pretty right, including back in 2024. He was one of those that said he saw 2024 coming, when frankly I was puckering, hoping for the best, but had no idea. And he walked the plank and said, oh yeah, I think big things are happening for President Trump in 2024. He was a Trump advisor of that campaign, as a matter of fact. And now he's still CEO of McLaughlin Associates. And he's also part of the campaign that you've heard here on the show, representing Americans for a Balanced Budget, as we talk about Obamacare and some of the tax code advantages that people that are buying their own health insurance enjoy right now. And John, we welcome you to the show, sir. Thanks a lot for your time. Hi.
Chris, it's a pleasure to be with you. And fortunately for me, since 2011, I've been advising Donald Trump, and he's been proving my polls right. So it's like I've been in a unique position. So he makes his polls working.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of the specifics of why you're here today, but I would say broadly about your industry, that is the polling industry. It's really taken on water over the last few election cycles. Yours is not, but some have. What has it improved? Has the methodology improved in the digital era or not?
No, because you've got the media bias. I mean, they flat out put out polls that they know are wrong. Like, for example, a year ago, the Des Moines Register poll. Right before the election, they said we're going to lose Iowa by 3 points. It was skewed. There was too few Republicans in the poll, and they did it on purpose because they didn't like. It was an international story. They don't like Donald Trump. The Des Moines Register, very liberal editorial board in their paper, and they put out a fake poll, and they've been doing this for years. They're doing it again. There's lots of polls out there where they'll poll adults, they'll poll registered voters. There's polls like The Economist, YouGov. They do them online. They only have 35% Trump voters. We got 50% in the election. All you have to do is poll likely voters. And it's a little more expensive. You call likely voters. You don't call illegal immigrants. And you get a poll that reflects what's going on. I mean, I have an MBA in quantitative methods. You pull the sample properly, you execute the poll properly, you check the sample when it comes off, and most pollsters can get it right. But the media, they love putting out bad polls on Donald Trump, and he takes the bait and they get into fights. But fortunately, Trump voters ignore it, Americans ignore it. And it's going on right now with this job approval and some other things where they have a lot of fake polls. But they have a political agenda. They want the Democrats to win the midterms. And they don't want to see the Trump coalition hold up. They don't want to see us keep the House. They don't want to see us keep the Senate.
Are you of the belief, historically, I was talking about this earlier, John, historically, it's just so, when one party runs the table, as Trump and Republicans did, it's almost always a fait accompli that that party that has total dominance ends up losing at least control of one chamber. I think a lot of people, I'm starting to see a lot of negativity, even on what would be known as the conservative side or what was supposed to be the Trump sympathetic side. I'm not entirely sure of their motives, but you might know what I'm saying if you spend any time in social media, that are all saying it's going to be degrees of shellacking if Donald Trump doesn't change his messaging and change the direction and change. And so kind of a broad question. I'm asking many things here. I know it's very difficult in politics and in this modern era to say, be patient, but for heaven's sakes, it's been 10 months, John. And so I get it. Things aren't where we'd like them. I get it. One party in total control usually loses. There's a lot that I understand, but is President Trump really taking on water in his messaging, or is it just a matter of give his prescription for the country time, and he's confident in that?
Well, I think, by the way, I've done polling for a long time, and in 2001, 2002, I worked for Jim Gilmore, who ran the RNC. I worked for Speaker Hasser at that time, and I worked for Congressman Tom Davis, who ran the NRCC. And in 2002, all those factors were true, and what happened was we grew the economy because of the Bush tax cuts, and you had a patriotic sense after 9/11, and we picked up 2 Senate seats and 8 House seats. and added to our majorities. Donald Trump has passed a great tax cut, and that's critical to growing the economy. The economy is showing signs of growth in spite of what CNN and the left-wing media say. The economy is starting to percolate. People are starting to recover from inflation. But there's a lot more to be done. And, the biggest metaphor is we ran campaigns this past November, particularly like in a big county like Nassau County, where we had the Republicans and the county executive, Bruce Blakeman. It's bigger than 8 states. He got reelected by 12 points in a Democrat county in liberal New York. And I don't know what they did in New Jersey and Virginia, but the most important cost of living issue is taxes. The Democrats want to raise taxes. The Republicans want to lower taxes. That's what we ran on: safety, crime, cooperative ICE. So there's issues out there. And by the way, that's why this Americans for Balanced Budget survey is really important, because Trump transformed the Republican Party into a working class party. And we are now we got 50% in the last presidential election. We're becoming the majority party, but we've got a lot of our working class voters depend upon health care tax credits to buy health insurance because their employers don't provide it. And so they work, sometimes 2-3 jobs, and they got to buy their own health insurance. And the tax credit the health care tax credits work. And when you look at affordability issues, healthcare is right up there at 39%, groceries, food, 38%, when you ask the multiple choices. And they're the top issues. And you've got like 9 out of 10 voters, 91-8. They believe keeping healthcare affordable is really important. And so you've got 3/4 of voters concerned about their own healthcare costs. And you've got vast support for these healthcare tax credits, where we polled nationally, and the numbers I was quoting you came out of 16 congressional battleground districts. We polled in June about these tax credits. They're really popular with 4 to 5 voters. We polled in later on in October, and then we polled in these battleground congressional districts. And you've got 70-20 the voters support them. So Donald Trump has come out this week with a plan where he wants to maybe, lower the eligibility, because some people who are making well into 6-figure salaries still qualify for the tax credits. And he also wants to put controls on the health insurance companies from, constantly raising the premiums that, the consumers don't have control of this. It's really between the government and the health insurance company. So the premiums are going up. He wants some more health care controls because he doesn't want them to go up higher than inflation. So they're reasonable reforms, and the Democrats in the Senate don't want to talk about it. All they want, because their idea is to collapse the system so that we end up with big government health care. They want government paid health care, and they want to collapse the system, and they're willing to sacrifice working class voters on their political, ends to try to get a majority for themselves in the House and the Senate. And they're also trying to collapse the healthcare system so they get government-run healthcare. And then if you get sick, we'll all be waiting for healthcare because you won't get it, because the government will be your doctor, and that'll be the worst.
John, we are seeing health insurance, and that's the thing. I always hate referring to this as health care. It was never about health care. It was never about the cost of medicine. It's never brought anything about the cost of doing business in medicine down. This is always about the industry of insurance. And as far as insurance is concerned, it also didn't make it any cheaper for people on Obamacare. While, as you mentioned, all of us who buy it through our company or individually, we're paying to subsidize people who are getting it for, quote, free. So President Trump, part of his plan, as I understand it, is to make everybody pay at least a little something, which seems completely fair. In addition to the tax credits, should be helpful to voters, yes?
Right. Yes, and it gives the consumer some control that way. So you feel responsible for this. And we're not, by the way, we're not talking about Medicaid. That's what the government shutdown was about. They wanted free health care for illegal immigrants, the Democrats. And President Trump fought that out. Okay, so the government's reopened because they are trying to undermine the economy while he's, in control. But But when you go back to your point about, that we would like everybody to have control of their own health care. You'd like to have people be able to pick what's best for them. And if they're working class, that they need some help with it, they need health care tax credits, the president's willing to extend it for 2 years, and the Democrats aren't ready to talk about it at all. All they want to do is they want to basically have Obamacare, which will collapse the system, or nothing.
Right.
And remember, the Republicans, they got elected to not just to repeal Obamacare, but to repeal and replace it. It's people
John,
want something better.
Yes, they do. And you guys are working diligently for it. At Americans for a Balanced Budget, we're glad to partner with you. StopHealthCostHikes.com is the web address if people want more information on this, and I do hope they'll go there. It's StopHealthCostHikes.com. John McLaughlin, pollster and advocate here for Americans for a Balanced Budget. Grateful for your perspective this morning, sir. I hope you'll come back. I don't know if you saw Harry Enton yesterday on CNN. I put this up on social media for people that are not necessarily aware of the numbers. And while I've been talking a lot about the carping and the chirping from the sidelines that are supposedly inside the MAGA tent, those who identify as GOP voters haven't moved off Trump even a little bit. And if you didn't know this or you hadn't heard this data, you should know it. Number 19, here's the vaudevillian over at CNN, Harry Enton, with the news for Trump. As far as GOP voters are concerned, he hasn't lost a bit of support.
So is the president losing Republicans?
No. Look, this is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we can see it here. It's like a rock, to quote Bob Seger. I mean, take a look here. Republicans who approve of Trump. 6 months ago, it was 87%. Now, well, hello, it's the same number. It's 87%. He has not lost any support among Republicans compared to 6 months ago. As I said at the beginning, he's like a rock. He's like a rock. The Republican base is sticking by Donald Trump at this point in time.
Hello. So that's something you ought to know, because I understand, again, if you're someone who's a regular consumer of social media, particularly political social media, you are being led to believe that everybody has just headed for the exits on President Trump. Not the data that the vaudevillian has there anyway. Our telephone number is 855 Stigall. Still to come, we'll talk with our buddy Josh Hammer about this judge who did what we knew the judge would do. A couple of activist judges again yesterday, dismissing the cases against James Comey and Letitia James. Not on the merits, mind you. Politics. Sit tight.